As the Nationals lost 8-2 against the Cincinnati Reds on opening day, Josiah Gray had a rough start, but let's not panic just yet, because if you remember, he did this last year. Now, what's next?
You are Locked On Nationals, your daily Washington Nationals podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And thank you all for making Locked On Nationals your first listen every single day, as we are free and available wherever you get your podcast. And of course, I'm your host, Ryan Clary. You can catch me over on Twitter at RyanClary11 and as well as the show page at LO_Nationals. And of course, for all your latest Nationals news and notes, check us out over on YouTube. Just search Locked On Nationals wherever you get your podcasts. Hit that subscriber button while you are over there. And of course, later on in today's show, we got two games to preview as the Nationals are taking on the Reds with Patrick Corbin on the bump and as well as Jake Irvin on Sunday. So we'll discuss those two games and preview that for you over this weekend. And of course, as you have heard, Nick Senzel has a fractured thumb. You're going to expect him to be gone for quite some time. Now, what does this mean for Trey Lipscomb, who is getting the call up after winning a Gold Glove last year down in the minors over at third base? Game 2, he's going to be your starting third baseman moving forward. We'll discuss that and kind of the Senzel injury, what it means for Trey Lipscomb, and much, much more in that second segment. But let's first off talk about opening day, because that is what the story is today. Unfortunately, it did not go as planned. Nationals lost 8-2. Josiah Gray did not have his A game yesterday, as that was kind of what we saw throughout spring training. Now, let's take a trip back to last year in 2023. Josiah Gray was relatively shut down during the entire spring training. He was very good, looked great, started game 2 against the Atlanta Braves, immediately gives up 2 home runs in that first inning, and all of a sudden the trains were just off, or the rails were off the train track there. Yesterday was a little bit similar. He gave up those 2 home runs, 4 innings pitched, 8 hits, 7 earned runs, 6 strikeouts, and 2 walks in those 4 innings pitched. It wasn't his best game. 80 pitches in those 4 innings as well. He just did not have his command. He was not on his A game. And if you know Josiah Gray, as we have all seen him, you can kind of tell when he's not on his A game. Yesterday, seamlessly after the first few innings, you were like, this is not going to be a great day. And also, right before the game, having someone, that you were counting on with Nick Senzel being your starting third baseman, having him break his thumb right before the game. I'm talking about an hour and a half before the game. That is just a tough thing to go by. It's tough. Listen, there is no excuses for yesterday's performance. It was not a fun game. No Nationals fan was relatively having fun. But here's the thing. It's a marathon. Let's not get overwhelmed with just one start from Josiah Gray. Let's not get upset about the offense, not really doing all too much. Don't get upset about C.J. Abrams going 0 for 4 with 2 strikeouts. Don't get upset with Lane Thomas going 0 for 4 with 2 strikeouts, which it feels like he kills the baseball at Great American Ballpark. He went 0 for. The top half of the lineup was simply not good. The top 3 hitters only had 1 hit, and that was Jesse Winker. Other than that, they combined for 5 strikeouts, talking about those top 3 guys: C.J. Abrams, Lane Thomas, and Jesse Winker. This was not a good game by any stretch of the imagination. The one guy to really make a difference in the ball game yesterday was Eddie Rosario, hitting that 2-run home run. Other than that, there really wasn't that much to be like, this Nats team's looking pretty damn good over. It wasn't a fun game. Simple as that. But now, kind of looking ahead in the future, I have to remind myself this, and I think you might be in the same category here. With Josiah Gray, even back into last year, there always had been ups and downs to him. He hasn't necessarily been all that consistent from day one. Again, we talked about it. Last year in his first start, he got rocked against the Atlanta Braves. Now, this is a little bit of a different lineup, but I also am here to say, I think the Reds are a lot better than what people are giving them credit for. And even then, the lineup that you saw yesterday, is still missing a few of their top guys. And also Noelvi Marte, who will be coming back in the second half of this year. And of course, TJ Friedel. There's a lot of different guys that are going to be helping that Cincinnati Reds team push themselves forward, hopefully making a postseason run. And I think that team is going to be able to do it come October. But now with this Nationals team, it kind of gave you a taste of what this year is going to be about. Yes, you do see a lot of the different prospects around, especially now with Trey Lipscomb, who's going to be up in game 2 and really moving forward as well. This is going to be about the future. This is the Nationals' kind of one last run at that lottery ticket. Try to get a top draft pick. Try to get a big impact college bat or maybe a college arm into your farm system to propel you for that postseason run within the next year or two. This last year, it's going to be a rough one. I'm just telling you right now. It's not going to be all that fun. But again, you're going to be able to see the peaks and the valleys and all these different things with as far as prospects go. You are going to want to see the individual performances. Now, again, after one game, don't panic. Teams get crushed all the time on game 1 and then win a ton of games and make a postseason run and win a World Series. Teams do it. It's not that crazy. But still, yesterday was kind of something that Nationals fans, it made you feel a little get cold inside. Made you feel a little bit like, are we sure this rebuild's going in the right direction? Are we sure we're ready for this next step? Well, to answer the second question, we're not ready for this next step. And we knew that. We knew that that was going to be coming. We expected that this year was going to be a tough one. It wasn't great to see Josiah Gray get rocked. It wasn't awesome. I was not having fun watching the baseball game yesterday. But still, I can understand the process of what's to come. And of course, it's whatever. Because again, the Cincinnati Reds, I believe they are better. I believe they're a lot better team than us. I believe they're a lot better than all the pundits are saying about them. I think they're going to be a postseason team, even in a strong National League. But now with this, kind of get back into the series. The Nationals, it was a tough game, but there were some good things. Like Joey Meneses having 2 hits. That's something to where he started off slow, really slow in spring training, kind of heated up the back half there. So it was nice to see him rack up a couple of hits. Other than that, the offense was not flowing. Only 6 hits between the National starting 9, and there really wasn't all too much to spread around with. Ildemaro Vargas got the call to start at third base after Nick Senzel broke his thumb, which we're going to discuss in the second segment of today's show and what it means for Trey Lipscomb, what it means for that position moving forward. And also, it just wasn't good. This was not a fun opening day. I don't know what else to say. I just don't. I saw someone tweet at me yesterday, is this the worst opening day starting lineup since 2009, 2005 maybe? I don't think so. But man, it was a tough one. Because again, when you kind of fill out Ildemaro Vargas for Nick Senzel, listen, Nick Senzel is not going to be some world beater here. We understand kind of the role that he's going to be playing for this team going forward. But then when you flip in Ildemaro Vargas and he's starting on game 1 in an emergency situation after Nick Senzel breaks his thumb returning to Cincinnati for his first time ever, that's not too great. That's not something that you're going to really cling on to and say, Ildemaro Vargas will be that utility guy going forward. So you know who could have filled in a split second? Trey Lipscomb. But now you're going to be seeing him moving forward. And again, his impact, it could be felt relatively early here, as I will tell you why. I think Trey Lipscomb, I don't think he's going to be giving up that third base spot anytime soon. But there is a big but in that sentence I'll discuss after we tell you guys about our good friends over at FanDuel. And guys, when we talk about FanDuel, I need to tell you guys why you have to say goodbye to busted brackets, because FanDuel lets you bet on every game of the tourney. Whether you're betting on a big upset or a 1 seed, it's time to go dancing on America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. That's $200 to use on point spreads, money lines. You can even pick who's going to win it all. Like I have picked Arizona, and of course they have lost. So now I'm going to move forward. Maybe Clemson wins it all. Who really knows at this point in time? But UConn looks pretty damn good. So maybe sprinkle some cash with our friends over at FanDuel. And all you have to do is visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn. Again, that is FanDuel.com/LockedOn and bet on college hoops until they cut down the nets. Again, that is visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn. And now we are back as Trey Lipscomb has gotten the call up to the major leagues because Nick Senzel fractured his thumb in yesterday's contest. So we're going to discuss this. But guys, have you ever thought about this? Are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day? Do you have to turn down the volume with all that shouting? Make the switch to Locked On Sports Today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel program for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't miss analysis, opinions, and news streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. And of course, thank you all for making Locked On Nationals your first listen every single day. So we are free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Nick Senzel broke his thumb or fractured his thumb before yesterday's game, in which was ultimately really sad because let's be honest, Nick Senzel was a former top prospect with the Cincinnati Reds. I was talking with Jeff Carr and Stephen Offenbaker in yesterday's opening day preview. Stephen Offenbaker, he actually said that he believed that Nick Senzel just needed a change of scenery, and that is kind of what would take him off because they've always believed in his talent. He's kind of been like a Carter Kieboom for them. A once very highly touted prospect. A lot of people had a lot of faith in him, and he looked really good down in the minors for quite some time. But once he made that jump up into the major leagues, something did not click. It did not hit right away. Nick Senzel, I'm not saying he was going to be a really good impact player for the Nats, but there were some chances. And after hearing Stephen Offenbaker, someone who obviously covers the team every single day, he believed that Nick Senzel could have kind of resurrected his career here. Not have some crazy all-star season, but still have been an impact player. The Nationals have done that for quite some time. They've actually been relatively good with veteran players kind of bouncing back. Think back to Howie Kendrick, Asdrubal Cabrera in 2019 as well. And obviously, of course, last year with Jeimer Candelario, that was a big slam dunk for this team. So Nick Senzel, I was starting to kind of talk myself into, well, maybe he could turn it around here. Well, before game one on opening day, after having not a great spring training, there was some competition there with Trey Lipscomb. And of course, he was never guaranteed the starting third baseman spot. So now fractures his thumb. It's going to be out for quite some time, in my opinion. I don't know how long it'll be. I haven't seen a timetable up to this point yet, or at least a set in stone one. So hopefully Nick Senzel can recover and bounce back well. But it's just sad to see, man, because again, returning back to a team where it sounds like they just kind of kicked him to the curb. He was told he was going to be a big piece of that rebuild. They gave him a lot of time. They gave him a lot of opportunities, and he never ran with that opportunity ultimately and got kicked to the curb for Jeimer Candelario. And then eventually it'll be Noel V. Marte. So it sucks for him. It really does. I feel for the guy. Hopefully he can recover here, and hopefully he can take back his third base spot, because I know David Martinez is not a big believer in the fact that if you get injured, you should not be losing a starting job. Nick Senzel was going to be the starting third baseman, so when he returns, I expect him to take the reins back yet again. But let's talk about Trey Lipscomb here. The time has come, people. You weren't expecting it. Well, let's take a step back here. A few days ago, I thought Trey Lipscomb would be your opening day second baseman. A lot of people, as the beat reporters have covered, a lot of people have discussed this, and there are a lot of people in the organization who wanted Trey Lipscomb to start on opening day at second base, and what probably would have ended up as Nasim Nunez going back to the Miami Marlins in that Rule 5 deal. Because if you don't know about the Rule 5 draft, you can't just place Nasim Nunez on the AAA roster. He's got to stay on the Major League roster for 162 games, or else if you send him down or if you try to cut him or whatever, he goes back to Miami. The Nats lose their rights to Nasim Nunez. So that's kind of what the thought was that Nasim Nunez would have been the odd man out, or maybe it would have been a Nick Senzel. I'm sure he was probably in the fold as well after not having that great of a spring training. But as we can tell now, all the guys are going to be on the roster. Nick Senzel's headed to the IL here after breaking his thumb. If he'll need surgery, who knows? It could take a little bit more time. Maybe it's a little bit less time. We don't know the severity of it just yet. But now you have Trey Lipscomb in the fold playing a third base who you already know defensively, you don't have to worry about him. This was someone who won a Gold Glove last year and down in the minors as one of the better defensive third basemen. He won a Gold Glove, people. This is going to be just fine defensively. I'm not worried about his arm. I'm not worried about his defense whatsoever. You're going to get him over at third base. Your defense is going to improve, point blank. Nothing to worry about with his defense. Here's the little concern that I do have. Trey Lipscomb, while he's been very impressive from day one when you took him in the third round out of the University of Tennessee back in 2022, yeah, he kind of has been a little bit rushed up in the major leagues. He'd never got any time at AAA, but as we saw this last year in AA and even in High A Wilmington, Trey Lipscomb killed the baseball. Trey Lipscomb had very good numbers until he kind of fell off in the second half down in AA Harrisburg. But even before that, we all saw the potential with him. You knew that this guy played all four infield positions. You knew the utility aspect that he brings to the table for this team. And that's when you kind of noticed this guy's going to bring value to the major league club at some point in time. Now, it was always where is he going to be? Where does he fit in this puzzle piece here? Because you always talk about Brady House. You always talk about, obviously, Dylan Cruz and all the other different guys. But Brady House is going to be your third baseman on the future. That's pretty much set in stone. Now, Trey Lipscomb, the reason why he was sent down to AAA was because he never really consistently played second base, and that's what was going to be the plan moving forward with him. He was going to play second base in replacement of Luis Garcia, most likely at this point, and then you'd have seen what happened. Is he going to be your second baseman of the future? Is this somewhere where he's going to be a super utility guy? Because Mike Rizzo has made it very clear. Do not think of this guy as a utility guy. He killed the baseball down in spring training, batted .400, was getting on base at a crazy clip as well, was hitting for power, was doing all the right things. That part in itself is very important to this franchise. Finding someone like a Danny Espinosa type, and if you haven't heard that comparison, that is what I think Trey Lipscomb could be moving forward for this team. At times, you're going to see some sneaky pop, but ultimately, he's going to be there to play very good defense. You can spread him all around the diamond, and really, wherever you put him, he's going to give you pretty damn good defense. I'm not saying he's going to win a Gold Glove in the majors, but he could be kind of that super utility man in which someday maybe he wins a Gold Glove for utility guy. Who knows at this moment in time? But really, his limits, they're pretty damn high. He has got some potential, and really what it comes down to is what he does at the plate, because that is the worried part that I kind of think about with Trey Lipscomb here. I think about, is he going to really catch up to major league pitching? While, yes, he did do it in spring training, but once you get from spring training onto the big field, it's a little bit different here. Things are going to change. The speed of the game is going to be a little bit faster than what it was down in West Palm Beach. Time is going to move a little bit quicker. Is Trey Lipscomb going to adjust to that? That is the big question that I have for him, because that is where I'm a little bit worried. While again, in spring training, you're going up against a lot of minor league talent, a lot of guys who might not necessarily really face major league talent at some point this season. Trey Lipscomb was in that category as well. He had a very impressive spring training, but still, is he going to catch up? That is what the concerning part for me is here. I think it's going to be a little bit of a slow start for Trey. I do. And you might be like, Ryan, you were just banging his drum all spring training. Yes. Trey Lipscomb deserves to be on this major league roster, in my opinion, after what he did in spring training. I don't think he's a step down from Luis Garcia. And really, I don't think he's a step down from Nick Senzel if you account everything as well. He's going to fit right in here. But the part is that kind of scares me just a little bit is, where will he fit? Where does he fit in this puzzle with the Nationals? Because I don't really see him taking this job and running with it even when Nick Senzel's healthy. Again, you don't have to worry about the defense. The defense will be just fine when it comes to Trey Lipscomb. The part where I'm worried about is, will he catch up to major league pitching? Because, we talk about this a lot. Juan Soto made the jump from AA all the way up to the majors, and look at him. He was Juan Soto afterwards. He's going to be a future Hall of Famer. That's not the case for everybody. Trey Lipscomb just missed AAA, in which, it's not the end of the world, but still, it is a little bit crazy to just throw some guy up into the majors. But if you think he's ready, So do I, because I think Trey Lipscomb, what he showed us this spring was that, number one, he should not be taken as just some utility prospect. And number two, the Nationals love this guy. They love him. You can see it. You can see how they've done it. With Luis Garcia, we've all seen the quotes come out from Davey Martinez calling it stupid plays and everything like that. They're a little bit fed up with Luis Garcia, if you can read between the lines here. And if you saw all the quotes come out about Trey Lipscomb, they are not fed up with him whatsoever. They are putting him on a pedestal, and they believe that this kid has got what it takes to make the major league jump. And that is why he's going to be your starting third baseman in game 2 and hopefully beyond for the next few weeks, maybe next 2 months. We'll just have to see what the time frame is for Nick Senzel. But at the end of the day, it does suck. I feel bad for Nick Senzel. Going back to Cincinnati, you break your thumb. Sucks. Terrible luck, but that is what baseball is for you. Thank you all for making Locked On Nationals your first listen every single day, as we are free and available wherever you get your podcast. And of course, check us out over on YouTube. Just search Locked On Nationals wherever you get your podcasts as well. Again, search Locked On Nationals. Hit that subscriber button for us. But next, it's time for a little weekend preview as Patrick Corbin making his first start of the season in his final year of his contract with the Washington Nationals. And then last year, kind of a rookie breakout, you could say, Jake Irvin is going to be starting in game 3. I'm very excited for Jake Irvin in year 2 with the Nationals. So let's preview that series as the Nationals, they could win next 2. I'll tell you after this. Thank you all for making Locked On Nationals your first listen every single day, as we are free and available wherever you get your podcast. So the next few days in Cincinnati, by the way, because the Nationals are off today as they kind of schedule it around in hopes of if opening day gets rained out or whatever, you can move it to the next day and hopefully it's a nice day here. But I do believe it's a nice day in Cincinnati today. Well, the next 2 days in Cincinnati, I believe, are going to be raining. And then, of course, if you check the weather for the Nationals opening day on Monday, it doesn't look pretty, unfortunately. So we'll discuss that. And, well, I won't discuss the weather because I just told you it's not looking all too pretty. But still, baseball will be played this weekend, hopefully. So game 2, Patrick Corbin against Hunter Green. One of the top prospects back in the MLB draft. I believe it was the second overall pick in the 2017 MLB draft. An electric fastball. Someone who's going to try to blaze one by you every single time. Had a very impressive last 2 seasons, in my opinion. Last year, took a big step up. This year in Cincinnati, they expect another big step up. So first and foremost, when we were talking with the Locked On Reds guys, you wouldn't believe it. They were talking about, oh, we're afraid of Patrick Corbin. What? They were afraid of Patrick Corbin? I mean, here's the thing. The reasoning for it, I guess, makes sense because, you know, they're not good hitting lefty pitching with a good slider. That's what Patrick Corbin does. I don't care what anyone says. I was worried. I don't care. This is not a good matchup for the Nationals. Yeah, the numbers may indicate that, yeah, Patrick Corbin could have some luck here because the Reds do struggle against left-handed pitching. I've seen Patrick Corbin go against teams that struggle against left-handed pitching. And I've also seen those teams give 10 runs on the board against Patrick Corbin. I can't go into this matchup being like, I feel good. No, I don't feel good, especially when you have Hunter Green on the mound, in which the Nationals, while you have Joey Gallo, you have Lane Thomas, you have guys who could get some pop out of there because Hunter Green has been giving up the long ball at times in his career. He has walked a lot of guys at times in his career. But again, I think this is a different Hunter Green. Number one, he's going to be 100% healthy. And number two, he's going to become one of the top pitchers in the Reds farm, in my opinion. I think Hunter Green is going to take a huge step up this season, and the Nationals, unfortunately, could be standing in his way of a big breakout game. Frankie Montas, who started opening day for the Cincinnati Reds, not to say that it was slighted towards Hunter Green, but I think a lot of people in Cincinnati felt like it was going to be Hunter Green's year. I think this could kind of be a little bit of a revenge game in a sense for Hunter Green saying, you're not starting me on opening day? Okay, watch this. I'm going to go shove it against the Nationals, and then we'll see what happens because the Cincinnati Reds are going to have reinforcements. They're having the day off today, as well as the Nationals. They're going to have their full bullpen ready to go by Saturday. If Hunter Green gets in any sort of trouble, they're going to be able to go down in that bullpen and get some outs for their guy. Patrick Corbin, on the other hand, again, the numbers may indicate, hey, Patrick Corbin could have some success here. I'm not feeling that way. Game 3 on Sunday. Jake Irvin, my guy, who I think will have a big breakout season and kind of prove himself to be a future, not ace of the staff, but someone who's going to be at the middle to back end of your staff moving forward, even on the good postseason teams. Yes, I think Jake Irvin is going to prove that to us this year. I'm not saying he's going to have some huge 3.1 ERA over 26 starts and have pitch 180 to 190 innings. I'm not saying that, but I think Jake Irvin, some realistic expectations, it's probably hover around a 4.0 ERA, maybe dip down into the high threes, but I think Jake Irvin is going to take a big step up this year. We saw him have one of the better springs of the Nationals in quite some time, pitch very well down the stretch, is pounding the zone. Yes, I believe in one start, he threw 43 strikes out of his 52 pitches. This is something to where it is very encouraging to see from a Nationals middle kind of tier prospect guy, someone who was in the back end of their prospect list, who was, I believe, the number 16 prospect entering 2023, having a very good rookie season, earning a spot again on the opening day roster. I think Jake Irvin is going to be kind of that breakout player this year, and it starts in Game 3 against the Cincinnati Reds. Now, you're going up against Nick Martinez, a veteran guy, right-handed pitcher for the Cincinnati Reds. It's not something where you're going into this saying, oh, Nick Martinez is a little bit scary. I think this is the Nationals game to win on Sunday. I unfortunately think they drop Game 2 against Hunter Green with Patrick Corbin on the bump, but I think they make it up with Jake Irvin because Jake Irvin, he's coming for that breakout season, and it's going to be a fun year to watch when it comes to Jake Irvin. Thank you all for making Locked On Nats your first listen every single day. So my final prediction is the Nationals will start the year 1-2 if they get the games, and I think they win on Sunday against Jake Irvin. So if you go to our friends at FanDuel, maybe place a little money there. That will make it a little bit more fun. I will catch you guys on the flip side. Enjoy the weekend. Baseball is back. Watch some Nats and go Nats.